Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo Postgame Show, brought to you on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, alongside my two co-hosts, former Buffalo Bills offensive linemen. And it's all going to kind of come full circle in this episode today because of this football game. Jerry Ostrowski, John Fina. You can find them on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O and at John Fina. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this video on right now. Please like it. Please subscribe. If you miss any of our content at all in live video form, please make sure to jump over to your favorite podcast platform. And as well, if you're listening to this in a podcast, please like, please subscribe, please leave us a comment, all that good stuff. Happy Victory Monday to you, Bills Mafia. It's actually Sunday at the time of this recording, but happy Victory Monday to you nonetheless. The 7-2 Buffalo Bills travel to Indianapolis to face the 4-5 Colts, quarterbacked by Methuselah's brother, Joe Flacco. And they come out with the win in front of a very red, white, and blue crowd there in Indianapolis, a place they have not won since both of these two gentlemen, my co-hosts, were starting for the Buffalo Bills in 1998. They officially moved to 8-2 in the season, a mark the Buffalo Bills have not seen since 1993, which was John Fina's second season as a Bill. And I think, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, the year before you joined the Bills. Is that accurate?
My first year.
It was your first year. I Wikipedia'd that today.
I came in partway through the season, but I was there in 93.
On the Bills' last Super Bowl run. But regardless, happy Victory Monday. It's great to be here with you two gentlemen, all the people that are jumping into the comments section. Welcome to all of you fellas. 8-2.
Who'd have thunk it? I mean,
I wouldn't have.
What do you think? I think it was 86 to 89% of all the prognosticators wrote off our Buffalo Bills. And now standing tall at, what'd you say the record was? What was it?
8-2.
Say it again.
8-2.
Man, that almost got me cabbage patching.
Wait, I need to see this. You gotta do it.
I thought you were a Roger Rabbit guy.
Oh man, next tailgate, you get me a couple of drinks.
What do we got to do to get you to do the sprinkler? Can you do the sprinkler at least? Can you do something?
Man, I have my trick hip. I can't do those sprinkler no more.
There's no hip in the sprinkler. What are we talking about right now?
I'll have to check a video. YouTube.
Anyways, gentlemen, who wants to go first? How did this game sit with you as far as just kind of our first overarching at a glance thoughts? Then we'll get into stats. Then we'll get into our dude awards. Yeah, where are we at in this football game? Jerry, you can go first.
Well, I think that the Bills faced, obviously Joe Flacco gives them a gift right off the bat. They go 7-0, but at one point in time, the only touchdown scored by this team was from the defense. Mm-hmm. They had a couple of drives that faltered, had some field goals, but the thing that I'm seeing out of this Bills team that I like is that, and it's especially offensively, even if, the passing game or some things are not going well early, they have something to fall back on to stay in the games. And that thing that they're falling back on is the running game. And I don't think people understand just how huge that is. This Bills team in the past hasn't had a very dominant running game when times are tough. And when things get a little bit iffy, you got to have that running game to go back on, and the Bills are doing it, and they're finding a way to stay in games. Defensively, gave up too many yards in the first half, but in the second half, they come out and players start to emerge, and we'll talk about that as the show goes on. But they were able to stop, Jonathan Taylor, kind of contain him. And when you look at the stats, I mean, hell, he had a hell of a game, but most of that was in the first half. So that's my biggest thing with the Bills right now is the fact that they, even in some adversity early, they have things they can go to keep them around, settle things down, and then get into the football game.
Yeah, as I was driving in the truck on my way back home from a family birthday party for the show, I was thinking about the Bills have traditionally always had good running backs. I'm going somewhere with this, to your point, Jerry. You can go through a litany of players. There were times that we had Marshawn Lynch, Fred Jackson, C.J. Spiller, like all on the team at the same time. We've always had good running backs. So we are akin to and accustomed to having Travis Henry, like having good Antoine Smith, having good running backs on this football team. And then you enter the Josh Allen phase, the Josh Allen era. and you look at the guys that they had and the way that they were attacking defenses, all throw, all go, all the time. And when they would try to run it, it was a little bit discombobulated, disconjuncted. Like it was just odd and awful. And then kind of getting to the point that we are now. I'm at the point of realizing the things that you guys have both been saying, specifically this season, about driving the running backs into that defensive line, like head on, straight downhill. We are now at the point where I'm becoming confident that by the third quarter, the defensive line is going to start to feel the effects of driving James Cook and Ray Davis and Johnson into those guys. As far as it seems like I'm starting to build confidence that we can win this way. And I know that sounds weird because the Bills are 8-10. But this just isn't who we've seen from Josh Allen and the Josh Allen offense, right? So we're seeing those benefits.
Joe, I feel where you're going with this. I want to talk about a different feeling, though. You take it back about 4 or 5 days, and the carousel of wide receivers. A few people fell off to injury, and I pay attention to Twitter. I'm kind of a lurker. I read a lot of stuff. I don't post. I don't always comment, but people were like, having defib problems, right? I mean, they're worried. And I was thinking about the way the Bills have approached this season and the way Josh Allen has operated, and with the balance of the running game with 2 terrific running backs. And I came to kickoff and I had a really just sense of calm. I wasn't concerned about this game or this team that we were playing. And then as soon as the ball was kicked off, the anxiety kicked in. And I was almost like regretting not freaking out in the week like the rest of Bills Mafia. To Jerry's point, I do appreciate the wrinkles that Joe Brady is adding throughout the game to expose opportunities for this offense. I do appreciate the fact that Jonathan Taylor comes out and runs up and down on us in the first half, and they go in the locker room, and Babich and his crew say, this is what we got to do, right? And we've made some, pretty fair adjustments along the way. So, yeah, I was – minus a couple of things in this game, which we could all easily point to. It was truly a team effort. And I just love, and my stats are my stats. And when we get into stats, I'll tell you what I think mattered the most. But largely what I would say is they just performed really well across the board. There was always a feeling of confidence. There was never any moments of panic. Of course, it helps to be in the lead almost the entirety of the game, if not the whole game, all but when it was 13-10, I think. So, I'm glad I didn't waste all of that energy being anxious along with everybody else.
Right. And I want to bring this up real quick. Ralph Wilson Sr. brings up, he said, would adjustments be quicker if the coordinators were on the sidelines? Why only second half play looks different? We talked about this at length, or at least I talked about it in length with Joe Marino a couple of on the beats ago, where it's almost like this coaching staff is a conservative first half staff. And then when the second half shows up, that's when they'll bring their stuff with them, especially if they're in the game. I keep saying it. You heard McDermott saying on the sideline, so I'm going to keep saying it. It's the whole complimentary football thing. They want to stay in games, and they don't stay in games if you struggle early, take chances, and give up big plays. So if we can get to halftime and we've got it tight enough to where we know we're okay, the confidence that staff has in Josh Allen to make big plays and all those things, then they'll go ahead and do some different things in the second half. But this is not a team that's going to come out and throw all the cards on the table in the first quarter, even the second quarter. They're going to go ahead, stay in games, and then, and then do some things differently in the second half. So, I appreciate that. I understand what they're doing. I think as fans and even us at times, we'd like to see maybe a little bit faster start or some things differently in the first half, but that's not their philosophy. That's not how they're built. And I think it's serving them well because, again, other than even the Ravens game, they made a huge, they were making a comeback in the third before the trick play issue. So it's like, I think, would we like to see more adjustments? Sure. But I think this is a staff that really aims towards the second half of the game.
It was wild to me. Oh, go ahead, John.
I want to address the same question. Yes, I think it's best to have the coordinators in the booth. Now, when we played, I would have said differently. But having the coordinators in the booth and people who are call them analysts, call them assistant coaches, who are really drilling down on the defensive alignment and assignment, right? The coverages, the place on the field. I like to have all those brains in one central location where they can make those changes, right? But the problem with making changes early, maybe not the problem, but what I see as the rhythm of it is that their offense or their defense has to expose enough to show trend, to show philosophy for the game in order for you to really kind of have a benchmark to lay out how you're going to counter it. And if we can stay in games, and we haven't stayed in every game, clearly, well, we actually been, the Houston game was kind of a mess, but Baltimore was worse. But if we're close, I think that those guys make a better adjustment when they're together and when they have a variety of plays that they've seen defensively, offensively, that they can begin to pick apart.
Well, especially if you're an analytics guy like McDermott seems to be, you need to have some plays under your hat before you can start making those types of decisions. The other thing being, at least, you talk about coordinators on the field, especially defensive wise, really the coordinator is on the field. he's the head coach, right?
Kind of on the field,
and I know he's letting, I know Bobby's making the calls and he's doing a tremendous job, but and I do believe that McDermott's given him freedom this year, but ultimately, if that guy doesn't like what he's seeing, he's going to go ahead and change some things up.
Well, he called a timeout today on the offense when I don't know that a timeout. I mean, I don't feel like it felt like when you watched the game, he was calling that timeout because the play clock was getting low, but you saw him starting to track his way. Like they had a shot on McDermott and he was tracking his way down the sideline even before that. Like he was kind of headed in that direction. There was something that he wanted to see. Go ahead.
But the other thing I'm going to say is these are things that fans have grinched about for a while. I mean, McDermott now is doing what they want. He is being involved. He's taking chances. So
overly.
So it's like you're getting what you've been complaining about. You've been complaining he's too passive and too, not aggressive enough. And now we're going for fourth downs on our side of the field and
30 from the 30.
Right.
You're not kicking the field goal,
right,
and you're on fourth down when you should be. I mean, I know it was 46 yards, right? And for me, I want to know what the conversation was behind even that play as we're kind of jumping all over, which is fine because this was kind of a mishmash of a weird game. But like 46-yard field goal, what's Tyler Bass, who just kicked a game-winning 61-yarder, thinking on the sideline? What, you don't trust me to make this 46-yarder, right? And then he's in there for after the personal foul penalty on Spencer Brown. He's got to kick a 47-yard extra point. That mattered.
That was awesome.
Like that point mattered. It wasn't a little point. They weren't up a lot by then. But there's aspects of like I want him to be aggressive. I think I know you're speaking to the broader sense of Bills Mafia, Jerry. But there's also times where it's like, no, you go up 2 possessions here. You go up 2 possessions here.
Right.
You don't go for it on fourth down. And those are 2 different plays. There was obviously the other time where they were trying to bait the defense, and then they ended up putting the
it's a good point, Joe. But I would say as an offensive lineman, we see 4th and 1. Jerry, what do you say? I don't care where we on the field.
Right.
I'm going for it.
Right.
There are times when I think they looked at this defense in preparation, and the common thought was they're good, but they aren't going to hurt us. We would only hurt ourselves. And I think when you say 4th and 1, let's go for it, you're pushing your guys, you're instilling that confidence. And I'm kind of a live by the sword, die by the sword guy, right? I want to bring more pressure on defense, and I want to be more aggressive in those situations on offense. So I was happy with that.
Right. And those 4th and 1s, before we go to the super chat, those 4th and 1s also are pacifying the need of the quarterback. They're making sure 17 stays in the game and he's getting what he wants, and he wants to go for those every time, believe me.
Every time. I want to talk about Josh Allen in a second. We got a super chat from the Pullout King. Good to have you. Appreciate you, and we appreciate the super chat. Let's go, he says. Need Amari Cooper and Coleman to get healthy, but these last 2 wins are, in my opinion, kind of great to grind it out type of wins. But let's get it sorted and healed up before the rest of the season. We need to get it sorted and healed up before this week. This is a big football game. Go ahead, Jer.
I'm not, if they don't play, they don't play. To me, this game, while it means something to the fan base and it means something to probably the national media so they can talk about things, this is the one time we're rolling into a Chiefs game where I just don't really, if we lose this game, I mean, I know we're trying to get home field and everything, but what's going on in Kansas City with the blocking field goals to win game? If they don't play, they don't play, because if they don't play this week, we got a bye week. That's 2 weeks more of rest.
Right.
Let's get them healthy for the stretch. I wouldn't rush them back, but hey, that's just me.
Very similar to John's point. Like, I felt that way about this game. I felt very much like sit them all. If you've got a guy that's barely injured and he can, like, it could help him to heal up one extra week. And if we end up in the L column with this one, just because they got the best of us, they got a good defense. Flacco can make some passes downfield. They've got Jonathan Taylor. I felt the same way about this game, Jerry. And then Taron Johnson does a pick six on the first play of the game, and I'm like immediately in John mode. Anxiety, gotta win this game. Like, it just all the emotions came right out of me. I was like, well, so much for letting them lose this game. But I get it. At the end of the day, they're in a race for the number 2 seed at the very least, right? So if they lose this game against the Chiefs, the number 1 seed is out the window. Now you're in a race with the Ravens, believe it or not, the Steelers. You're in a race with a bunch of different teams for the number 2 seed, because you want to avoid playing the Chiefs and the Ravens. You're going to play one of them in the playoffs more than likely, but you want to avoid playing one of those teams. Yes, to your point, John.
I'll dovetail on what Jerry said from a personnel perspective. I think when you have a healthy Khalil Shakir, when you have Curtis Samuel starting to come on a little bit, and you've got a couple of other role players. I mean, that pass that Dawson Knox caught today was just fabulous, right? And I was looking at it, he didn't beat a linebacker. He beat a nickel corner or a dime corner on that catch. So while I don't relish the concept of having, arguably our 2 best receivers, in street clothes, I don't think that precludes the chance that if we play a smart game, much like we did today, minus 2 plays, that we don't come out with a victory.
Yeah, I agree.
You're not wrong as far. I mean, you're not wrong. And Pullout King said he was agreeing. His point was exactly what Jerry said as far as that goes. The Chiefs are not playing their best football, and I know this show isn't necessarily about the Chiefs. They're not playing their best football, but if there has ever been a team, the Bills and the Chiefs are very similar this year in the sense of they are not powerhouses,
gritty
like the Ravens. Yeah, they're gritty. The Ravens seem like a power. I know the Ravens have lost 3 games, but when you look at that team, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Mark Anderson, like the defense, Humphreys on like who they have on. That team looks like just almost unbeatable. And meanwhile, the Chiefs are undefeated. The Bills are 8-2. It's going to be an interesting football game for sure. You got to think that they're not going to go undefeated this year. They can be had. The question is who's going to get them, right? Is it going to be us? Is it going to be somebody else?
Right. Well, I mean, consider that there's only been 2 undefeated teams in the regular season, right? Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots.
But only one of those went undefeated for the whole season.
Well, right? You know what I'm saying, for the regular season. Yeah,
exactly. So the question that I want to get into is this, as it pertains to Josh Allen specifically. I believe it was the 2 of you when we were back on Rumblings had Greg Cosell on. I know it was the Off Tackle show. Was it both? Was it both of you guys, John, or was so I wasn't on the show? Was it somebody else?
Jerry and me.
Yeah, I was on there.
So Greg Cosell went to great lengths, and he was dead on right, which Greg Cosell generally is. That's why he's as popular as he is. He said that Josh Allen is not a precision quarterback. Josh Allen is a guy that likes to live outside of structure. He nailed it. So my question to the 2 of you, and I'm going to date the 3 of us, because Josh Allen is a guy that, much like Tom Cruise, Maverick in Top Gun, the first one, he's only happy if he's going Mach 2 with his hair on fire. And the Bills are very much asking him to live inside of a run game that right now is being very effective. And I'm going to say it this way, against some very, very good defensive lines. Like, you are looking at an offense and 2 running backs that can run the football probably on just about anybody. Meanwhile, the Bills are asking Josh Allen to kind of live inside of that structure. And it feels like, to me, he is basically, it's when you get in bed at the hotel and the sheets are wrapped under the bed, and you're like kicking your feet, just trying to get some room. Like, how do I get some room to like live and breathe in this thing?
Why do they do that?
But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like,
I do,
versus just like tucking in. pulling the covers up and just living inside of the structure that they're giving him and making passes, which is what Joe Flacco does.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but if you're referring to the two mistakes he made today, I mean, the first pick was just unfathomable short,
horrible throw.
right? I mean, just a horrible throw.
There was no reason for it. He had a ton of time. I know they got there late. The pressure got there late, but he had a ton of time.
That doesn't match your argument of, let the beast loose kind of thing, right?
Right.
I mean, if he's the beast, he would have overthrown it by 10 yards. And in the second one, or on that one in particular, I'm like, take the check down. Take the check down.
Yeah, I saw you tweeted that. I saw that. Yeah,
I kind of get what he's saying, and I agree with Joe at this aspect where, and mark that on the marker that I agree with Joe.
Praise Jesus.
That that was a throw where he takes the snap, he goes back, he has lots of time, he surveys it, make the throw to the open receiver. He throws it short. All he's got to do is put a little air under it, and it's over top that guy, and he makes the completion. Those to me are the types of things where he has the pitch and catch stuff. I guess you could say it. The pitch and catch. That's why this quick passing game thing is good for him, because it's balls in his hand, throwing it. And there's not a lot of this, his mind is already on it. Throw it, like when he takes a snap and drops it down sidearm and hits Shakir on those throws. It's a quick type thing. When he moves in the pocket, moves around, that's when he seems to make the big completions downfield. But to sit back there like a Tua or some of these guys that are really, really good, Mahomes, that's not his style. It's never been his style. Just like today, he's second in the franchise in the history of rushing touchdowns. That's awesome. But that just goes to show you the type of athlete we have at quarterback. I don't necessarily think Josh is how did I put it, Joe? Because we talked about this off the air. He's not necessarily a game manager quarterback. That's not what he does. No. He's never going to be a game manager quarterback. In chaos and moving and stuff and he's great. And I don't want anybody else as my quarterback. I'm not saying I dislike Josh. I'm just saying, what are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? And being that guy that takes the snap and one's not there, let's go to two. Two's not there, let's go to three. That's not his style. That's not what he does.
But he's much better at it than he ever was. But what I'll say is he should go to like a warlock or a therapist or the Maharishi, because they give him they call some runs for him that I don't agree with, that are 50% successful. And I'd get him to do a mind swap on that and say these little runs that we give you, that's your swap. That feeds the beast.
Right.
So take those runs and recalibrate, and then sit back and throw the ball.
I asked Jerry a question about the runs in particular, because this year it was about the second half of last year and this year, other than a couple runs, and we had one today and the 22-yarder against the Dolphins, he got called back, where Josh finding those creases up the center that he made a living on from 2018 until basically the first half of 2023 last year. Actually, I don't think he ran much in the first half of last year. Now it just seems like when he goes to break, there's a defensive lineman waiting right there to grab his hips.
Two reasons for that. The defense talks about it all the time, for sure, right? I mean, if I'm a D coordinator and I'm looking at a guy who's 6'3", 290, I'm like, if you're not getting off the ball, maybe quit fighting and start spying right there.
One guy did that today. We saw that guy do that
for that A gap. And number two,
Pay, right?
A little bit of a kiss me deadly, right? They want him to be a little bit more of a game manager and sit back in the pocket. So I think he's reluctant to leave the pocket maybe a half a second or a second earlier than he would have back then. So those lanes closed down a little bit. But hey, I'm okay with how he's playing. I just don't want him to throw that ball to the sideline like he did, and I want him to make a better throw on the open guy.
And John's 100% correct. And I think that defensive tackles are being told, we're going to get push, but I'm not going to go ahead and swat and swim and get out of my lane and get pushed down. And you saw that later in the game. I can't remember who it was. They brought one of the backups in, and great pass rush, gets a big swim, and he gets caught. Torrance pushes him down the line, and Josh rushes right where he was.
Right.
Makes yardage. It's, the illusion of, yes, I'm rushing the passer, but really all I'm doing is pushing the pocket, trying to get get that pocket shrunk down so my ends can get there. And then if he does try to escape, just fall off of it and make a play. I think, it's exactly what John was talking
So
about.
is this an evolution of how to defend Josh Allen, in as much as if you don't have the horses to get there, the answer is to not pressure Josh Allen, in the sense of like super big time pressure, because what he's going to do is he's going to beat you. We know he can beat the blitz, but he's going to beat you with his legs too. Go ahead.
The blitz is what seems to be getting him. If he does get caught, we got everybody blocked and there's a free runner and they make a play because nobody's open. But yeah, I mean, they're playing the middle of the field differently. And then, of course, we talked about it ad nauseum. When he tries to escape to his right, you see those defenders. I mean, they are sprinting to the outside shoulder, sprinting to the sideline. They're not going to him. They're going to the outside to try to keep him in it with a spy over there as well. So the book is out. I mean, I think he's killed enough defenses now with 57 rushing touchdowns that maybe, just maybe, if we look at the roster and we go, hey, we have no home run hitters at receiver, maybe we could try to control the guy that's the home run hitter and maybe get him a little frustrated that we can get him to make some mistakes.
Which he hasn't made any deep mistakes this year. He's made some. He's got 2 interceptions that were, you can argue the Amari Cooper interception was not his fault. Amari could have crossed the face a little bit stronger. I felt like it was a little bit of a bad throw. Obviously, last week, Keon Coleman deflects off his chest, and Jalen Ramsey makes a ridiculous catch. The interception today was a horrible pass. Jerry talked about that. We all talked about it. And then the second one, to John's point, probably shouldn't have been thrown to that guy. It was just a poor decision. But he hasn't made that impatient Josh Allen, I'm going to chuck it down the field and get picked off, throwing it to some guy streaking in triple coverage, right? We haven't seen that happen. So he's collared that in his game, which is great. Defense. Let's shift to any follow-ups on that before I shift us to the defense?
We could talk all night, but maybe we need to pivot unless Jerry's got a big point.
Yeah, we could talk all night. It's funny too, because this was a little bit of an ugly game, which a win is a win, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But man, that defense, holy cow! And I know that it's Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco made some throws in this football game that were elite throws, even at his age. Jonathan Taylor's over there; he got away. Do either of you want to break down kind of what happened and how Jonathan Taylor got away on that one big run? Was it a 49-yarder or a 59-yarder that he got caught from behind on?
I can give my guess without seeing all 22 yet and really analyzing it. I would imagine with the Bills running a 4-2-5, in the 4-2-5, a lot of times the defensive end is not. And John made a point, and I agree with him. He talked about his alignment, and he was already beat out leveraged by his alignment, and talking about Casey Toohill before that play was made. But I'm pretty sure that's probably how they called it, because a lot of times in that 4-2-5, they want to funnel everything to C and D. They want their safeties to come downhill and rally to the ball. So if you watch it, Taryn was already out there. You had a cornerback outside, so those are 2 contained guys. Toohill then probably was told he needed to shut off B-gap. So wherever he was lined up in, he was going to cross that tackle's face, shut off B-gap. So if B-gap shut off and we've got 2 guys outside, that ball has to hit outside of Toohill between Taron Johnson. Well, they pushed Taron Johnson inside, and if you watch DeMar was caught inside, and by the time he recognized it, he was already out leveraged. I don't even think anybody blocked DeMar. They just ran right past him. So I would say the way the defense, because it's funny when you talk about a guy outside, they do this thing called triangulation. They triangulate. So the outside guy's going to the outside shoulder, the inside guy's going to the inside shoulder, the next guy's going down the middle. They try to triangulate these guys with the ball. Well, the middle guy, which I believe was DeMar, wasn't in the middle. He was caught inside, and that's how he split it and made the big run. So it might change. My opinion might change after we see all 22, but that's my best guess.
No, you're right, Jerry. And I think one thing I completely understand what you're saying, and maybe it's a mistake by DeMar, because he definitely came up with inside-out leverage, and he needed to be over the top.
Right.
And then when you get over the top, you end up with maybe a 15-yard run, and linebackers able to recover. What happens, he comes in from the inside with the wrong leverage, and Taylor's able to burst out and get to the sideline or closer to the sideline, which is a longer way for the linebackers to run if he takes the proper angle. And Jerry, as he was coming upfield, he was almost in line with the offensive tackle, and then by the time he bent out, Jonathan Taylor's just too fast. He needs to widen earlier. And it might be, I don't know, is it a communication or misunderstanding from the secondary on what exactly the philosophy is with the front five, right? Because you got to know if you have leverage. And clearly, either he was out of position on the snap or he didn't understand, because Tuhill did cross the face, like you said, Jerry. Although I would say you can still start with like a 5 or a 6 technique, and on the snap of the ball, move your way in, which could cause some after the snap reaction where Tuhill might have been able to string it out a little bit. But on the snap of the ball, he was gone. DeMar takes the wrong angle. Terrence pinned, and we're off to the races.
Well, one thing I learned having a son that plays defensive line, if they tell you to cancel B gap and your ass ain't in B gap, it's on you. And I think that, DeMar, if you watch Jonathan Taylor, most of his runs were busting up the middle until that point, and then they hit him outside. I was just going to say that. Yep. And I think DeMar was cheating inside, thinking, hey, I'm going to have to cheat inside. And the next thing you know, Jonathan Taylor puts his foot in the ground and gets outside. And, man, I'll tell you, I mean, he's an impressive back. He's an impressive player.
I was begging to draft him.
And I'm not saying he's Barry Sanders, but it's very Barry Sanders-ish that he's going to be stuck on this football team and burn all prime years of his career and not have an opportunity to play for something, because I'm telling you, he is talented, man.
Oh, I don't feel bad about that.
He might be better than his old man, and his old man was a hell of a back.
Nobody ever opines about offensive linemen languishing on a perennial loser and never making it.
Well,
opine, Jerry. Find me some O tackles and OGs.
Well, I hope you're not talking about yourself, because you were never playing on a perennial loser.
No, I'm saying we talk about Jonathan Taylor being stuck there, but what about that guard, Quinn, whatever his name is?
Nelson,
yeah. I mean,
Quentin Nelson. I
mean, those two are pinky promising all the way to the loser's bench, right?
And that also helped us as well when Bernard, and I can't remember his last name, the German-sounding dude that plays left tackle next to Quinn Nelson, who's a tremendous player, he went out with the knee injury. That helped quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
I loved when they got a little bit into the side. I believe it was McCourty, one of the McCourty brothers, Jason or Devin. I'm not sure which one is in the booth. I think it's Devin. They talked about the fact going into this game, Sean McDermott says in his midweek presser that Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's been playing forever. There's nothing he hasn't seen, and they still managed to make him pause long enough. I believe it was on that 4th down play when he took that sack. And they showed it from the all-22 angle where, I think it was DeMar was out in a single technique, in a single high. So, Joe Flacco looks up, sees him, looks down, and then as soon as the ball snapped, Rapp bails, and, they totally switch places. And, when he looks up again, they showed it from behind him, and there was nobody there. And you could almost see Flacco be like, wait, what happened? Because what I was just looking at is not the same. and he ended up having it, it paused him just long enough to take that sack, which was, the defense played. Did it? I'm trying to think how I want to pose this to not make it sound like I feel like there's a coaching issue. It felt like the defense was a little more on point for this game. They were a little more, and you two as former players maybe can speak to the attention to detail. And I expected it to be a little bit of a lull based on the fact that it was the Dolphins last week. You got the Chiefs next week, and then the bye, which the reality is the bye is a big draw. Guys are looking forward to the bye, planning vacations. They're going places with their families, a little bit of downtime. It's going to be 11 games into the season by then.
It's like
I expected them. What's that?
It's like 2 days off.
Regardless, they can get away for 2 days, but I expected this to be the game where they didn't pay as much attention to detail, and it just seemed like that defense was on point today.
I'll take that real quick. I just think they looked at Indy and felt like they could be very aggressive. Our corners are playing fantastic football, right? So that just gives Rapp and Hamlin a little bit more latitude to be more aggressive. And I think they're playing at a high level of confidence in the secondary. Up front, we still have a few things to kind of, tinker with, figure out, be more prepared for, however you want to say it. But our secondary is playing lights out. And I think they felt like this is the week. They weren't afraid of any of the weapons per se, and they could kind of play a little tighter and let it all hang out.
Right. I think Pittman not playing helped them quite a bit in the secondary. Mitchell made some plays and showed some promise, but I think what happened
going to be good though. That down's
right.
going to be good, real good.
He is. He's going to be very good. But when you look at this, you look at the Colts, I mean, or you look at ourselves in the second half, you talk about the defense. I think they shored up the run game, and I don't have the snap count totals yet. You don't get those until Monday usually or Tuesday. I'd like to know. I'm really interested to see how many snaps that Jordan Phillips played, how many snaps that Quentin Jefferson played, and how many snaps they both played in the second half. Because I thought Jordan Phillips played a lot more snaps in the second half or later in the second quarter than he did early, and then all of a sudden things started getting jammed up. And you can say what you want about Jordan Phillips. We talked about him with on the beat on Tuesday with Mookie. And in the comment section, there were a bunch of people talking about how he's never played potential and he's washed and all this stuff. He was a difference maker today.
Quentin Jefferson had a huge sack too. Sorry.
Right. And you take a couple of vets that know this is their last hurrah, and now all of a sudden they're on a good football team. They get much more motivated. And I thought they were a difference maker today. I really do. We'll talk about that more later in the show.
Does it sound hypocritical or a little wishy-washy for me to say I was happy to see him go and I'm happy to see him back?
No, not at all.
I think what's odd to me is you look at a guy like Poona Ford, who is like having himself a day on the Chargers. He's got 2 sacks, and meanwhile, he couldn't find his way onto the field in Buffalo. I'm just like, when we got Poona Ford, everybody was like, we just got Poona Ford for $1 million or whatever it was. Like, this is a huge thing. Dude couldn't find his way on the rock, like onto the field, which was crazy. But it was a very, very good football game. Before I jump us over to stats, is there anything else that you guys would like to wrap up on, or anything that sticks out that you want to talk about as far as the game goes?
No,
stat me up.
Stat you up. Again, please stop me at any point in time if there's anything here that you want to talk about. Josh Allen had a weird day. 22 of 37 for 59% completions for 280 yards with 2 interceptions. No touchdowns. This is probably not a great day. I don't know where the 280 yards came from. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, 280 on 20. Like, I think I remember every completion. 280 yards. There was the long one to Dawson. There was the 30-yarder to Khalil.
Mac Hollins had like 84.
86 of it came from Mac Hollins, Joe.
Yeah, he had a great football game. I'm never going to live that down. Like, it's
Kincaid had a beautiful play right down the seam.
He should have had 2 beautiful plays. If it wasn't for another bad throw.
He threw the damn check down, James Cook would have added 35 more.
Rushing, James Cook, 19 of 80 for 4.2. James had himself a day, but he is at this point in time cemented himself as one of the better running backs in this league. And I remember I tweeted it and I put it in the Discord chat as well. I'm old enough to remember being told James Cook had bad contact balance. The knock on him coming out of the scouting report. Yeah, the knock on him coming out of college was that he had bad contact balance, and everything he never carried the ball at Georgia more than I think 11 or 12 times, and that only happened once or twice in his career there. And every time he got contacted, he was like at full sprint, 17 yards down the field when somebody would like glance him to knock him down, and like, oh, he's got bad contact balance. Like, he's never run between the tackles in his life until he got to the Bills. And I think Jerry, you're laughing if you got something to say about that.
I'm just laughing because I could never be a scout, because I'd be in a room and they'd be like, so Big O, what about James Cook? What do you feel about his contact balance? I'd be like, hell, I don't know. All I know is he can run the rock. You should draft him. Like, I mean, what the hell is contact balance?
It means when you get hit, do you fall over?
I know what it is.
Actually, this would.
I'm afraid that concept. I'm afraid that concept of contact balance is like determined by 1 or 2 plays that's been seen, right? For example, who's the defensive end that knocked the guy's helmet off one game and he ends up top 5 pick? I can't think of his name. He's been in the league forever, but I looked at him.
Jadeveon Clowney.
Jadeveon Clowney. I watched Clowney play, and I'm like, that's not my guy. He doesn't have the right bend. He doesn't have the right hips, and now he can't get leverage on guys. And I've more or less been proven right. I mean, he's a good football player, but I think that what happens is you get some sort of a play or 2 or 3, and then you're wearing that jersey forever.
Yeah. No, you're right. He goes in and replaces Mario Williams, who ended up going to Buffalo. There was an expectation that Jadeveon Clowney was going to be like Myles Garrett, and he's clearly not Myles Garrett. Like Myles Garrett is the dude. He is him. So James Cook, 19 of 80 for 4.2 of the touchdown. Josh Allen, 8 of 50 for 6.2 of the touchdown. Ray Davis did not have himself a great. This is the first game for Ray Davis where he probably didn't have a standout performance. 3 carries for 6 yards. Mitchell Trubisky had 1 on the kneel down. Receiving, leading the way, Jerry's favorite wide receiver in a Buffalo Bills uniform, Mac Hollins, 4 for 86 for 21 points. He was open. Jerry and I go back and forth about this, and we did in text form after the game, and I made a comment just about drops, and I was wrong. My issue with Mac Hollins early, and this was before Amari Cooper was here, and it was specifically in the 2 losses, and I think in the 2 wins as well. Josh would rely on him, which is what Josh does, right? So Shakir should be his blanket. Shakir should be Josh Allen's warm, or Dalton Kincaid. But early on, Josh, it was Mac, and Mac was not open. And Josh is like, I'm going to throw it at Mac. And Mac is not Stephon Diggs. Mac is not a guy that is going to get open like that, but he was open in this football game. He was open last week. Like, he is maybe beginning to find that body language that they always talk about, that Josh wants, Josh needs. Does that ring true to you too? Yes.
If Josh was throwing the ball and he wasn't open, that's on Josh.
You were not wrong.
Throwing him the ball.
I am 100% true. 100%.
I just think it takes some guys a little bit of time to get used to an offense, and believe me, I'm not saying he's wide receiver 1. I mean, hell, who is on this team anymore? He's a healthy body, and lately he has been making plays when needed, and it's something that they don't need him to go out and catch it 10 times for 150. They need him to make the play when it's warranted, and that's what he's doing, and that's what that's his role, and he's playing his role well. So
and make the block. I mean, that's really the things that he does when he's not targeted. Things he does without the ball are super impressive. And frankly, I just love, I love the campaign of joy and good vibes that he brings. I mean, that's a winning campaign for a guy like that, and for this team and for the culture. And I'm glad that he had a great day.
And the other thing we can do is we can take Curtis Samuel's picture off a milk carton.
For sure.
He showed up today, 4 catches for 35, which was nice.
Is that a situation where because Coleman was out, he was running Coleman's routes, and those routes are better suited for him? Or is this just there was nobody else, so they had to throw the football to him?
I don't know. I think
I would have to watch the film. I'd have to watch a lot of film to determine that. But
today, maybe so, Joe. I know what you're saying, and I think probably you're right. Instead of being the gimmick guy because the other guys were playing, then Curtis got pushed into a role that he hadn't been doing, and he was fine. If he needs to get more snaps in that role, then if that's what he is. I mean, we've talked about it. You've made a point many a times about how, hey, he was the number 1 guy in Carolina and he played great in Carolina. Why isn't he doing it here?
And Washington.
You're right. Yeah, in Washington. And you're right. I mean, he's a guy that maybe today he got routes that he normally doesn't get instead of being the orbit dude that, we try to force the ball to in the flat. Maybe now this shows he needs to get more of those.
The biggest indictment is on the Bills. The Bills, in a year where they are cap strapped, and they're paying Stephon Diggs $31 million to not be here. They paid that dude $8 million, and they're not throwing him the football.
It'll come. It'll come.
Well,
I feel pretty good about it.
Question about James Cook. James Cook is clearly, we saw flashes. I feel like I'm never going to get through these stats. This might be a long show. It is what it is. Settle in, everybody. We saw aspects of what we're seeing from James Cook from time to time throughout his career as a Buffalo Bill. Clearly, he's maturing. Ralph Wilson Sr. asked the question, or says Cook is taking notes from Ray Davis. Do you feel like, because it seems like Ray Davis is having an effect, maybe opening up eyes on what?
I'll say it.
Go ahead.
It's why coaches thrive to have multiple players at a position that are good, because it creates competition in practice. It creates constant competition. It's not like he's taking notes, and I'm not even saying that he's playing harder. It's different when you have a guy behind you.
Ready.
If you're not there, we can stick him in your slot, and you know what? Everybody will still show up to Highmark Field, and everybody will still tailgate, and the game's going to be played whether you're there or not. So I think a little bit of it is just that internal competition, and it
Right.
brings out the best in people. I mean, it's human nature.
Yeah.
I would add that James Cook learned last year that he needs to just commit and go downhill when he doesn't see anything. And maybe because he's got the contact balance, he'll bounce and he'll find a spot. But I think by and large, he started doing that last year. He's just doing a little bit more this year, I think. And because when he was a rookie, he didn't play enough to my liking. You could almost say that last year was kind of a quasi rookie year, but and I think they've learned that lesson. He's getting downhill faster.
Right.
Hey, I was digging through my desk, and I found when Brandon Bean sent me down to Tallahassee to scout James Cook, I found his evaluation sheet. It's I don't know if you read that. It says James Cook can play, can't play, can play. Draft him.
Yeah, I hope you got paid.
There were so many. Listen, if we're going back, so I am the
we're getting off topic here. We're out of stats.
I am
now.
This is great. These are three bros talking football. Everybody settle in and enjoy the content, because if there is a draft disparager, I am the guy that it's like darts at a dartboard. Don't talk to me about taking quarterbacks in the first round. Don't talk to me about like projections. James Cook, his projections were bad contact balance. You can Google it right now. And like people that you trust said this: bad contact balance, does not have the correct or proper frame for a number one running back because he's an inch taller than his brother Dalvin, who was a number one back at the time, and 10 pounds lighter. So, and it was like, well, can't he add 10 pounds? And then the other thing was that he will never be or translate to a number one back, or like a bell cow in an offense. And here we are, good contact balance. His body frame doesn't matter, and he's the dude that totes the rock.
I haven't looked at the stats around the league, but I would say that probably 50% of the teams use two backs in a rotational type of effort that build confidence for everybody and probably have more success in their run games. And I'm fine with that. If one game Davis gets 75% of the snaps and then it flops the next game, I'm fine as long as they're producing and they're not running sideways, that they're running north.
And the beautiful thing about this is we're talking about running games. We're talking about tailbacks, when just like 2 years ago, everybody told us that they didn't matter and we shouldn't pay running backs. And now all of a sudden in the league, what the hell is everybody doing? They're running the football. It's crazy.
It ebbs and flows. I'd love to get more information, picking the brain of you guys. I mean, you're talking about, and the funny part is when it switches back, depending on where Josh Allen is in his career arch, right? They could flip back, go get three amazing wide receivers and say, Josh, run around with your hair, Mach 2 with your hair on fire and throw the football over the yard, because he can, right?
Having two high quality running backs will make those receivers better. And Joe Brady is doing a terrific job, or the run coordinator, giving a variety of schematic attacks, and we ran a lot of play action today and it worked. I'm a happy guy right now.
Yeah, the interesting thing is it just came through. Qualibear, by the way, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a little while. Qualibear goes back a long time with some of the shows I've done, probably 3-4 years. He says the really good running backs get paid, and I haven't read what the comment section's talking about, but Ray Davis kind of puts James Cook in a situation where I don't know that the Buffalo Bills pay James Cook when his rookie contract's up. So it's next year, right? He's got one more year as a Buffalo Bill.
Can we just win the Super Bowl first before we talk about this stuff?
It's only been 70 years. The Bills have never won a Super Bowl.
I mean, let's just table this.
We had the greatest all-purpose running back of all time, and we didn't win a Super Bowl. But yeah, we're going to win a Super Bowl because James Cook is on our. All right, I'll move on. I'll keep going. We'll bench that, and I'll keep going on the stats. Khalil Shakir had himself a day, 6 for 58, and that one run, I don't know how he does it, gentlemen. I don't know how he finds himself, because he holds the football in such a way that it's like, I'm about to get creamed, and then he finds himself at a spot where it's like, nobody tackled me. I'm just gonna keep running.
He's Molds trained, man. I think we should send the whole wide receiver room down to Eric Molds this offseason.
You said that in the Discord.
I'm all for it.
You're right.
I have a theory, and I've watched a number of the plays where Khalil Shakir breaks free when he should have been tackled. And maybe you can start looking at it. Maybe I'm full of what. But when a guy is getting tackled, he tends to stride long and try to get more yards. What I've noticed about Khalil is he gets more upright and he's pumping his legs up and down. So if a guy falls off, he's in a position, he's quicker than snot, right? He can then dart out of there.
You know what they call that, John? You know what they call that?
Contact balance?
Yes, they call that contact balance. That is the definition of contact.
No, but it's the habitus of his body. He's not leaning forward. He's not practically falling down.
Right.
He bumps and he's pumping his legs. He's not standing still. His legs are moving up and down, and he's kind of wiggling. And like I said, he's covered in beef tallow. A couple guys swipe down him, and he makes another 5 to 12 to 14 yards.
He drops pad level. He gets his hips down and back while he's doing it, and it almost pinballs around. That's a good point, John.
You said beef tallow last week. I've never heard that phrase in my life. And then I was at this birthday party tonight, and my sister-in-law says beef tallow. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I didn't bring it up, but I'm like, I don't know if she's watching the show or if she's just a big fan of John Fina, but here we are. Dawson Knox, 2 for 40. For 20-yard average. Curtis Samuel, 4 catches for 35. He could have had a couple more. Ty Johnson, 3 for 32. Dalton Kincaid, 2 for 24. James Cook, 1 for 5. On defense, Taylor Rapp had himself an interception. I know I don't normally do the defenses. Taron Johnson, a sack and an interception, which was great. Greg Rousseau had a sack. He had the strip sack. AJ Epinesa with a sack. Who else? Quentin Jefferson had the big sack. I think that was on 4th down, right? Which that was the moment I was like, as a quarterback that's won Super Bowl or Super Bowls, at least Super Bowl, and has been playing in this league forever, you throw that ball anywhere down the field. You cannot take a sack the way that he did, but nonetheless, Joe Flacco did. So good on Quentin Jefferson on that. Team stats. Total yards for the Buffalo Bills, 415 to the Colts, 361. Passing yards, 280 to 240 for the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, 280, 240 for the Colts. Rushing yards, 135 for the Bills. Go ahead.
No, I said got it.
Got it. 135 rushing yards for the Bills, 121 for the Colts, which is surprising because Jonathan Taylor had 100 yards. Yeah, he had 100 yards in the first half. I'm like, damn it. Yards per play, 5.9 for the Bills. 5.9 for the Colts. Matched them up perfectly. First downs, 21 of 19. So third down efficiency, 7 of 14 for the Bills. Is this becoming a concern for you guys? Because I saw it popping up on Twitter during the game that the Bills have come into the league 17th or lower in third down efficiency.
It just so happens, Joe, that on Thursday's Big O show, point number 4 was Buffalo's offensive and defensive third down efficiency. Yes, and they are 17th in the league. They were 38.2% before coming into this game. Offensively, defensively, they were 40.4%, ranked 21st in the league defensively. So, yes, it is a concern.
Very much a concern. Gotcha. Fourth down efficiency. They actually did not get a fourth down try for the first time this year, but they were 2 for 3 today. The Colts also 2 for 3, total play 70 to 61. I can't believe they ran 70 plays.
Joe, did you have what did you have the Bills' third down efficiency at?
7 of 14, 50%.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
You were poo-pooing that?
No. I'm not
poo-pooing
no, just
that. Overall.
Overall, but if we're having a conversation about third down efficiency, their third down efficiency in the first half was not good.
Okay, but it was 7 of 14 for the whole game, right?
Yes, it was.
And Jonathan Taylor ran for 106 yards in the first half and then 7 in the second half.
So apparently it doesn't matter.
No, I'm saying it does matter. I'm saying it does matter.
Yeah, 50% is good, but
50% is fantastic.
But he did make a good point because our third down efficiency, after being in the last 2 to 3 years in the league, being in the top 5,
right,
we're in the middle of the pack or lower. Which that is an issue.
Bottom third, right? Or close. No, I guess we're in the bottom half of the second third is where we're effectively at. But so punts 2 and 2. Sacks. I'm sorry, did I bend that too far? Sacks 2, and then sacks allowed 2. Josh Allen got sacked twice, which one of them was close, and then 4 for the Colts. Penalties 8 for 54, and the Colts 5 for 25. Fumbles lost. The Colts had 1 fumble lost. Interceptions thrown. Josh Allen threw 2. Flacco threw 3. And then 32 to 27 for time of possession. So anything about stats that stick out to you guys at all other than what we talked about? Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah.
Real quick, gentlemen, did Spencer Brown come back? I did not see this.
He did come back in the game.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
I think the one we want to know about is Dalton Kincaid.
which came back as well and then left, which is probably
Right.
not a good sign.
Actually, it's probably a good sign. Came back, and then we're winning the game, so get him the hell out of there. All right, so here's the 3 stats that, to me, won the football game. 50% on third down, right? We won the turnover battle, and we had over 100 yards rushing. And those are the 3 right there for me. Those are the 3 most important stats in everything that you read.
Yeah. Jerry, any follow-ups to that?
No. We had a couple we had one for sure that could have been catastrophic, and thank God for UCLA alum Alec Anderson at the bottom of that pile on the kick return.
Number 70.
Yep, that could have changed things drastically. I've said I don't want to see the 2 interceptions, but knock on wood, our running backs and receivers are doing a really good job of holding on to the football. We're not getting things punched out on a regular basis. And then the other thing is, defensively, it was nice to see the adjustments. And when I say adjustments, they're limited, but they were adjustments, and they were able to slow down Taylor in the second half.
Very good.
Love it.
Good stuff. So the last thing we have for this episode, and we've got about 3 minutes to get us out of here, if we want to get out in under an hour, is the Dude Awards here on the Overreaction Sports Network. We don't do thumbs up and thumbs down and arrow up and arrow down. We give out Dude Awards. Basically, every time there's a victory, it's dude, good game. You are the man. Great job, dude. So let's go around the horn. Whichever one of you guys wants to go first. Who has the first Dude Award?
I'll go first. I think a guy that's just been laying it out there every week in every aspect of the game, from kicking game to offense. Mac Hollins gets his opportunity, gets some great balls thrown to him and makes the most of it. Mac Hollins, when people were concerned because 2 receivers are down, he steps up, and the vibes and the energy and the joy that he brings, I love it.
3 things I could do without hearing ever again. Okay, everybody eats. Mac Hollins doesn't wear shoes, and Josh Allen's interception issues. If I could do away with those 3 things, it'd be awesome.
That's amazing.
But anyway, my Dude Award, I was torn. I thought Taylor Rapp had a hell of a game today. 7 tackles, 5 solos with an interception. Joe, you made a good point. If it was normal Taylor Rapp devastation mode, he never would have got that tipped interception.
Nobody bid on that in the Discord chat. I was like, that's like
it was a very good point. It was a very good point. This is a couple times I've given you praise, so don't ever tell me I never give you praise. Okay, son. I thought it was a very good point, my son. But anyway,
what's happening?
The guy that I'm giving it to is when I watched him come in, he got more reps. And when he got more reps, things changed. And I don't care if it's a non-popular opinion or not. I dig old dudes that make a difference. I like guys in their last so many years that decide, you know what, I'm going to do what I have to do to try to win a championship. My Dude Award goes to Jordan Phillips. Nice. 2 tackles, both of those solo. He had a quarterback hit as well. When he got more time on the field, all of a sudden things inside, it got a lot harder to run the football. And you look at the tackles, Rousseau had a game. He had 4 tackles. Epinesa had 3. But the next guy on that list, as far as defensive linemen go, Jordan Phillips. And I did laugh a little bit because you could tell the big old guy was a little bit winded because he hadn't played a lot of plays in the last so many weeks. But he was extremely effective. So that's my dude, Jordan Phillips.
I don't know if you two are a little stitious or superstitious, but how much of it is can be drawn down to the fact that he went back to his original number of 97?
Maybe. I hope so.
Dude, as an athlete, number was important to me. Like, I can't wear number 9. What the hell are we talking about? You can't give me number 9. Like, varsity baseball. It's like, I can't wear 9. Don't give me number 9. Like, were you guys that way, or did you not care? Well, John wore 70 most of your career, right, John? Like in college and everything? Yeah. What about you, Jerry? Were you a number snob, or no, did you not care?
I was 53 in high school, couldn't get in college. So my first year I was 78, but then I got 55, and that was my number all through college. And then in the pros, I got what they took me, and I was happier than hell. They gave me 60 because the guy they cut to make room for me, he wore 60. So I got it. And that became my number in Buffalo.
Who was that?
That would be none other than Tom Mislinski, Mr. Fina. Another fellow Pollock. Yes.
These are
That's
going to
funny.
be these are going to be off pod discussions, Joe. Don't worry, we'll tell you.
That's amazing. Well, with that, unless you two have any final thoughts about this football game or even the Chiefs game coming up, I'll get this out of here. I'll give you guys the floor real quick.
Who's your dude?
Oh, I didn't do mine. That's right. Good call. Taron Johnson for me. 1 sack, 1 interception for a pick 6. This defense, as good as Cam Lewis, and I was on the fence. I told you guys both that I was on the fence between Cam Lewis. And Cam Lewis is about a body of work for me as it pertains to due towards special teams and what he's doing on defense. He had a good game today. But I went to Taron Johnson. This defense is just different with Taron Johnson on the field. He's probably the best nickel corner in the league. I would love to see continued and more big splash plays like those pick 6s, making quarterbacks want to stay completely away from him. But for me, that dude is good. So he kind of is in the Josh Allen sphere, right? You don't have to give Taron Johnson a dude award. He's kind of that dude, right? As far as that goes. But yeah, mine was Taron Johnson. So yeah. With that, any final thoughts, gentlemen?
No, we got a little bit of therapy we have to do with John when the show's over.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish that you could join us in the post-game comments, but alas, you will not be there. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Overreaction post-game show on the Overreaction Sports Network. Sorry, I'm getting all tied up. Powered by Believe. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this on. Stick around tomorrow. The aftermath, right around 10 o'clock in the morning, probably myself. The Off Tackle with John Fina show at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Tuesday, On the Beat with Josh Reed. Bills beat reporter Josh Reed is going to be with us. Humpty Hotline on Wednesday with myself and Jay Spence the King. And then Thursday, your first solid look at our next opponent, the Big O Show, the preview, the Big O Show with Jerry Ostrowski on Thursday. And my understanding is the If the Walls Could Talk guys are coming back this Friday. So that is your schedule for the week. But for me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, go Bills.
Go Bills. Yellowstone's back tonight. Much love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.